So we have new information, guys, coming from the author of My Hero Academia himself, Kohei Horikoshi. Thanks to a GigaJump interview, we now have information that gives us a better idea of what the end will look like. And the end isn't something far away, because as all the manga readers and fans following the series closely would know, we are now in the final act. Yes, My Hero Academia is unfortunately working its way towards an end. This is not a theory, it's been confirmed by the author himself, his editors, and well, the very story itself. It's apparent we are now in the end game. With that, let's look at some of the latest tidbits from the interview. For starters, Horikoshi was asked which characters will have a very important role in the final act. Horikoshi tried to hold back here but ultimately didn't hold back much, I'm guessing because of his own excitement. What he did end up saying was that Hawks and Ochako will have surprisingly big roles, becoming some sort of light of hope. Now, when I hear something like that, my first thought is Hawks' general optimism being a possible light for the heroes and society going forward, and Uraraka being a light for Deku specifically. But what do you guys think? We'd love to hear some predictions. Initially in the manga, it seemed Deku was going down a darker path, but that's already been proven false by his energy around All Might and civilians. So I'm not sure exactly how Uraraka can be a light for him currently, although if he's ever down or lacking hope in the future, maybe that's when she would again come into play. In his response to the question, Horikoshi would also confirm that Shinso and Monoma may also do big things, also adding that he's planning an epic scene for Sero, who honestly, if you can't tell, is one of his favorite characters. When I hear all that, it just confirms to me that we'll be having some sort of war again, a massive battle to settle everything once and for all. It won't simply be Deku vs Shigaraki with the world watching. That prediction is confirmed by him adding that many characters' actions will converge into one. So with that said, we can probably expect Class 1A and Class 1B to return to the manga again at a later point. When specifically, we don't know, but they'll definitely be back in a big way. Up next, let's get into my favorite part of this interview. Horikoshi would be asked about that one drawing from the art exhibition. He confirmed it was mostly aesthetic, so there can be no promise that there will be exactly a scene like that in the story. However, he drew it while keeping in mind how their relationship would develop if it were explored deeper, meaning it's not completely unrelated to the story. Interesting stuff. Basically, there's not an exact moment like this to come in the story, however, the message behind it is relevant. So when we look at this artwork, what we do see is Deku battered and bruised, finding relief in Uraraka, who is also damaged. Damaged and yet laughing or smiling in this moment with Deku as she pulls him in close. So from that, we see a connection to what Horikoshi mentioned previously about Uraraka being a light of hope. And honestly, this image even looks like just the end of the story, where after the chaos, there can be joy in knowing they've done it. Beautiful artwork, and honestly, for sure, one of my favorites to come out of the series. Next up, we have more questions directly related to the end of the series. Horikoshi would be asked if the beginning of the final act is something he thought of a long time ago, and he'd confirmed that it was vaguely planned. This was a little surprising because the end is something Horikoshi has always had in mind and even mentioned. In his response though, he'd also add that he started to think of the specifics around volume 21, in the High End versus Endeavor fight. Not sure if we should take this as a sign of the High Ends being heavily involved in the end, or just take it as simply a time when he started to think about the end more often due to this being somewhat of a middle point in the story. The interviewer really didn't hold back on these questions. They've all been pretty direct, and this next one follows the pattern. Horikoshi was asked if he's already decided the ending, and he'd say that he has. The path to it has been longer than he initially predicted, but the main elements that he decided before starting the series are still the same. And when you hear that, you have to be excited and satisfied, because that means it's been well thought out and something that has stood the test of time. He's had, of course, a lot of time to change his mind on these things, and hasn't, and that tells me it's high quality. And now having 100% confirmation that Horikoshi knows the ending, we can use interviews like these to get a peek at what's to come. Whether intentionally, for teasing purposes, or accidentally, hints at what's to come will definitely be present in his words and illustrations going forward from here. All good information, and as fans of the series, I'm sure you're all feeling the same way about this as we are over here on Plot Armor. Having this information now, along with what we already know, what do you predict is coming? For me, this doesn't change much except cement the fact that the full cast will return. Not just Class 1A, but everyone, for example Monoma. We're definitely heading towards something crazy, and with Deku stating that he needs 100% of the power of One For All to take down Shigaraki, I don't expect they'll be there to help fight him, because that just sounds like death. But instead, help with the High Ends probably, and the other villains that are now roaming free, and not just them, but let's not forget Dabi and Toga are still around. And no, I'm not forgetting Spinner. I'm making a choice not to add him into that list of threats, and how funny would it be if this man did something crazy like take out a top hero, but I guess time will tell if the spinner disrespect holds up. Come back to this video in the future if I'm wrong. But anyway, just a little bit of information to provide you guys with so we can get a discussion going, and as always, Plot Armor has you covered, so we had to make sure you guys heard what Horikoshi had to say. With that said, the rest of the interview can be found on our Instagram page, so check that out for a couple more bits of information. And be sure to subscribe to Plot Armor with notifications on to never miss an upload. We upload almost daily and would love to have you join in on our discussions. Lastly, if you'd like to support the channel even further, check out our Patreon link in the description below. With that said, until next time, keep that Plot Armor on you. I'm KJ, have a great day. Goodbye.